right, welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us here on Morning Live this morning. Now, the issue of the way journalists write and report stories, especially on court-related matters, has always been of major concern to fellow South Africans. It has also emerged that at certain times they ignore the important issues and make their own focus on certain aspects. To discuss this further, we're joined by two gentlemen in our studio this morning. We are also lawyers by profession. That's Dr. Paul Ngubeni as well as Dr. Thekisho. Gentlemen, good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you so much for your time. Let's start with you, Dr. Ngubeni. What concerns specifically do you have on media houses and the way they report?
Well, unfortunately, most of the journalists that report on court-related matters or on court judgments go so far as to sensationalize issues, not read the court judgments that they purport to be reporting on. I'll give you an example. I mean, recently, even in the case of Mr. Ngubeni, you will not know that Judge Davis's judgment, setting aside his appointment as COO, went further to require that the SABC should let Mr. Ngubeni go through a disciplinary process. And if he's cleared, that's in the judgment, paragraph 52 to 53. If he's cleared, then he can be considered for appointment even to the permanent COO position. That has been ignored entirely by the media. And even after Mr. Ngubeni went through a disciplinary process and was cleared, the narrative we hear today is that he's not appointable, that there are some issues, that some court judgment prevent him from being considered for appointment, right, which is just not true.
Dr. Thekisho, I see you nodding to what Dr. Ngubeni is saying.
Yes.
Would you like to add on that?
Yes, I think my observation is that there's a particular narrative that these big media cartels wants to give to society. Hence, them be able to report in the manner in which they report so that it must suit their agenda.
But why would the situation be like that? Why would they report in a certain way to direct focus of the public to where they want? Is there perhaps an agenda to certain people? I mean, you've just referred to the case of the former CEO, Ngubeni. Do you think there's an agenda maybe?
Yes, we think that there is an agenda, and the agenda is broad. The agenda is really to maintain the status quo. The agenda is to ensure that there's no transformation that is taking place generally in South Africa, but in particular the media industry, so that they must continuously be able to give direction and be able to guide the society and feed them things that they think suit their agenda. So the agenda is really broadly, it's about transformation, it's about really changing the narratives that suits their interest.
But is it really the case? They've reported on the case, they've reported on the disciplinary hearing, they've reported on what happened yesterday. Is there anything that you think it is not being told?
Yes.
What is that? Correctly
stated by Dr. Paul Ngubeni. Look, there is this narrative that is given that generally that at least black people are incompetent, they are corrupt and all of that. But in particular, the manner in which this narrative is given takes out the main issues. For instance, the case of Davis is very clear as to what must happen. But why are they not necessarily reporting on that particular case?
Could it not be lack of knowledge and understanding maybe of the rulings and the verdicts?
It cannot be. It's deliberate. Let's take clear, specific examples. The Constitutional Court said the public protector's findings are binding unless they are taken up on review. The SABC has taken the public protector's findings on review. Now, you will expect all parties who claim to respect court judgments, from the political parties to the NGOs, to respect that process, to see it through. Let the review process continue. The media has reported the matter as if the SABC has not taken the matter up on review. The question of what Judge Davis ruled, he was specific. He set aside the appointment of Mr. Ngubeni as COO, pending him going to a disciplinary process. And he said specifically in the judgment. If he's cleared, then he's eligible for appointment. But you and I will agree, whether you pick up a newspaper today or you go on radio, that all of that stuff is not being reported. The fact that even Ms. Madonsela's own report has been taken up on review, that's not in compliance with the Constitutional Court ruling. So the SABC is being portrayed as by the media as if it's not respecting the rule of law, as if they are out to protect Mr. Msweneng at all costs. That's
Is the SABC respecting the rule of law? Is the SABC expecting the office of the public protector?
Well, it is, but remember the Constitutional Court says if you disagree with it, with the public protector, take her up on review. That's exactly what the SABC has done. And it says, if you lose on a court, in an appeal, as it happened in the case of the appeal against the Davis judgment, you respect the ruling. Davis's ruling was that there should be a disciplinary process. That has already taken place. Now, you can't argue against that.
The reason I'm asking you, Dr.
Yes.
Ngubeni, if the SABC respects the verdicts of the courts and the recommendations of the public protector is that the public protector herself was saying on one of the radio stations yesterday that the SABC should not have appointed Hlaudu Motsoeneng to this position because there are also some investigations hanging over this head.
No, but that's absurd. An investigation is not a finding. An investigation may very well clear you. It may point to your innocence, or it may point to a guilty finding on your part.
As a legal expert, there is nothing wrong that the SABC has done.
No, there's nothing wrong with
that the
that. A pending investigation, which is not even specified. We don't know from who complained, when the investigation started, when is it likely to be concluded.
Yeah.
You can't use a pending investigation as a reason to disadvantage individuals. That would be unconstitutional, and I think Ms. Madonsela is out of line when it comes to those utterances.
Your concern is not just on the former CEO, but on the Deputy National Director of Public Prosecution, Ngubeni, as well.
Yes.
What is your concern with that case?
Our view is, especially my view, is that the observation that I've really seen is that, you see, there was this case that the acting NDPP, who was Jiba at the time, went through, and the issue here is really about Mdluli case. And when you look at the Mdluli case, the Mdluli case was dealt with in courts, and firstly by Judge Murphy. And when Judge Murphy dealt with the case, there were some small errors that were done in terms of the law. And Judge Murphy took a decision to condone some of those things. One of them was really to file late. And an explanation was given, and Judge Murphy then condoned it. But soon thereafter, the JCB, which I think is quite racist, to be honest, JCB took this matter to court once more. And when they took this matter to court, they raised the very same issues. And the issues that are very problematic is that the issues that have been dealt with by Judge Murphy, which means that the matter has been condoned in that court, they revitalize that matter and want that matter to be dealt with. And that's one of the issues that made them to be struck off the road.
So you can't have run out of time. So are you basically saying with Jiba's case there is some internal conspiracy against her?
Yeah,
is
no, there is definitely.
It's not about the media in her case.
No, the media is well.
Internally.
The media is well, because what happened is, as these cases were continuing of black people, it was Milanis and Jiba and all of that, there is a very important case of Paul Hoffman. Advocate Paul Hoffman is a SC, who have complained me, Dr. Ngubeni. We got an email that says that there is an agreement between the Chief Justice and him, and now everything is forgotten, and we don't have to worry about that complaint
Gentlemen,
anymore.
I wish we had a lot of time to chat about this, but I'm afraid that's where we're going to leave it. Just before I let you go, Dr. Ngubeni, coming back to you, during the media briefing yesterday, a new information emerged, if I may call it that you are a wanted fugitive in the U.S. Are you a wanted fugitive?
I'm not a wanted fugitive.
What do you know about the case pending in the U.S.?
It's a lie. I came here to South Africa. I got a job here in South Africa. I had a matter pending in the U.S. on which I had filed a motion to dismiss. The motion to dismiss was granted in part. while the remainder of that case, in other words, there were allegations that I've engaged in unauthorized practice of law and so forth. The court dismissed that aspect of the case.
So you don't have any pending case of forgery and
I don't
property theft?
I don't have any.
You don't have
such.
It's a
such
lie.
cases.
You've got documents. You can prove it. The case was dismissed. There's nothing against it.
The case was dismissed in part. I want to be very clear with you on that. It was dismissed in part. That is on the allegations that I engaged in unauthorized practice of law. The judge said I was duly admitted, and that the allegations could not be used against me. On the allegations that their claim was that if you are not authorized to practice law, receiving a payment from a client is a form of theft from the client.
Okay.
So the underlying allegations were dismissed by the court. I have the judgment from the court too.
But why would someone make such implications?
This has been alleged since 2007. It's not new, and that's why I want to correct you.
But have you perhaps tried to prove it so that the allegations can go away?
I've dealt with it. I think to the extent that people want to continue raising that, I'm not going to allow those people to keep my life on hold.
What are you going to do? What's the way forward now? Because it keeps coming back.
The way forward, as far as I'm concerned, is that I've dealt with it insofar as explaining to people who care, giving them information as far as I could. And going forward, I will make sure that, for instance, this year is a year when the court in the US has said I can reapply for the reinstatement of my practicing privileges there. I have a court judgment to that effect. I can give you that.
All right.
So when that happens, I will go through it. I'll apply, and I will deal with all those issues.
All right.
But
Well, that's
Principal, just to
I'm
add-
afraid, due to time constraints, we've got to cross over to a TNA issue. But thank you so much. Are you going to be quick on this one?
Yeah, no, it's just that we don't understand that every time when people stand up to defend the rights of all of us in this country, there's always these things that are coming.
Yeah.
And to us, we think that they're trying to bully some of the people in relation, because this has nothing to do with the issues. If there is anyone that should have a problem, it's Foreign Affairs and the institutions that are responsible for such things. We can't. He's not arrested. He can't be arrested. And why must we have to raise those issues?
There you have it, Dr. Paul Ngubeni, as well as Lucky Thekisho, the lawyers by profession, talking to us about the way media reports on certain cases. Well, it's time to cross to sentence.